I think most people are buying the wrong smartwatch. And honestly, the Huawei Watch GT Runner 2 is the perfect example of why. Because over the last few years, smartwatch companies have convinced us that we need everything. More apps, more notifications, more AI, more distractions. But after spending weeks with the GT Runner 2, I started wondering if we've lost sight of what a fitness watch is actually supposed to do. Because this watch takes a very different approach. Instead of trying to replace your smartphone, it focuses on helping you become better, a better runner, a better athlete, and maybe even someone who sleeps a little better at night. The strange part? That approach makes the GT Runner 2 incredibly impressive in some areas, and surprisingly frustrating in others. So today, let's talk about what it's really like to live with Huawei's latest running watch, the good, the bad, and whether this is actually the smartwatch runners should be buying in 2026. The first thing that caught my attention about the GT Runner 2 wasn't the software. It wasn't the fitness features. It wasn't even the battery life, the design. Because Huawei clearly understands something many fitness brands still struggle with. People want performance, but they also want style. And somehow, Huawei managed to blend both together beautifully. The GT Runner 2 immediately feels premium. The titanium alloy chassis gives the watch a solid, high-end feel without becoming heavy. Small orange accents around the bezel and buttons add just enough personality without making the design look aggressive. And honestly, the watch looks fantastic. The default strap also surprised me. At first, I wasn't completely sold on the gradual color shifting effect. But after wearing it for a few days, I actually started appreciating it. It gives the watch a unique identity, something that many fitness watches completely lack. Durability is another strong point. Huawei includes Kunlun glass protection alongside IP68 water and dust resistance. And after wearing the watch everywhere, the gym, outdoor runs, sleep tracking, swimming sessions, I couldn't find a single mark that concerned me. It genuinely feels built to survive years of training. But what impressed me most wasn't the durability, it was the comfort. At only around 43.5 grams, the watch almost disappears on your wrist. Even after wearing it continuously for days, it never felt irritating or uncomfortable. That's incredibly important because the best fitness watch is the one you actually forget you're wearing. And the GT Runner 2 does that exceptionally well. Now here's where things get interesting. Because runners don't care about display resolution. They care about visibility. Can you see your pace during a sunny morning run? Can you quickly check your heart rate without stopping? Can you glance at directions while moving? The GT Runner 2 answers all those questions with confidence. The 1.5-inch AMOLED display is excellent. Colors look vibrant. Animations feel smooth. And perhaps most importantly, the display reaches up to 3,000 nits of brightness. That number sounds impressive on paper. But in real life, it's even better. Whether I was running through a bright park in direct sunlight or checking notifications outdoors, visibility never became an issue. The always-on display also works surprisingly well. Huawei intelligently reduces brightness while still keeping essential information visible. And honestly, it feels like one of those small details that improve daily use more than people realize. There's also a built-in speaker. And for music stored directly on the watch, the audio quality is surprisingly decent. Not amazing, but definitely usable. Unfortunately, the microphone tells a different story. Voice recordings sound noticeably muffled, and phone calls through the watch can feel frustrating. It's one of the few areas where the hardware doesn't fully match the premium feel of the rest of the device. This is where the GT Runner 2 becomes complicated, because Huawei's software experience is simultaneously one of its strengths and one of its biggest weaknesses. Let's start with the positives. HarmonyOS looks fantastic. The interface feels smooth, animations are fluid, menus are easy to navigate. Starting workouts takes seconds, and overall responsiveness feels excellent. Huawei clearly knows how to design software, but then reality kicks in, because Huawei still operates outside Google's ecosystem, and that creates limitations. App support remains weaker than Wear OS. Third-party integrations are more restricted, and depending on where you live, some services simply aren't available. Now here's the interesting part. The impact of these limitations depends entirely on what kind of user you are. If you're looking for a smartwatch that replaces your phone, this may not be the ideal choice. But if you're buying it primarily as a fitness watch, many of those compromises suddenly matter much less. Huawei also includes NFC payments through Curve Pay, which is a welcome addition. However, one missing feature continues to bother me. Offline music support remains limited, and honestly, for a watch designed specifically for runners, that's disappointing. Because one of the biggest reasons people buy fitness watches is to leave their phones behind. And right now, this is still an area where some competitors offer a better experience. Everything we've talked about so far is important, but this is the reason people buy the GT Runner 2, the fitness tracking. And honestly, this is where Huawei absolutely shines. The watch feels purpose-built for athletes, not casual step counters. Heart rate monitoring performed exceptionally well during my testing. Whether I was walking and lifting weights, running intervals, or doing recovery sessions, the readings remained consistent and reliable. GPS performance is another standout feature. Huawei introduced its new 3D floating antenna system. Now, admittedly, that name sounds like marketing, but the results speak for themselves. Route tracking was excellent, distance measurements felt accurate, and GPS lock-on times remained fast. Even in areas with heavy tree coverage, performance stayed surprisingly stable. That reliability matters, because inaccurate tracking can completely ruin training data. And thankfully, that isn't a problem here. The smart training plans are another major advantage. Huawei doesn't just collect information, it actually helps interpret it. Training suggestions feel useful, recovery insights make sense, and workout recommendations feel personalized instead of generic. For runners chasing specific goals, this feature alone could justify the purchase. Now let's talk about something many athletes underestimate: the sleep. Because recovery is just as important as training. And honestly, Huawei's sleep tracking remains one of the best systems available. The Huawei Health app provides detailed sleep breakdowns alongside explanations that are actually understandable. That's important, because data without context is meaningless. The app explains sleep stages, recovery quality, potential problems, and practical recommendations. Even when my own sleep schedule wasn't exactly ideal, the insights remained useful. This is one area where Huawei consistently outperforms many competitors. At this point, I thought the fitness tracking would be my favorite part of the watch. Then I started paying attention to the battery life. And honestly, this might be the biggest advantage of the GT Runner 2. Because battery anxiety simply disappears. You stop checking percentages constantly. You stop carrying chargers everywhere. You stop planning your workouts around charging schedules. Instead, you just use the watch day after day, workout after workout, sleep tracking session after sleep tracking session. And it keeps going. That reliability changes the experience completely. Many smartwatches feel advanced, but they also feel demanding. The GT Runner 2 feels dependable, and that's a huge difference. In the end, should you buy the Huawei Watch GT Runner 2? Honestly, if you're a serious runner, the answer is surprisingly simple. Yes, because Huawei has created one of the most complete running-focused wearables available today. Excellent comfort, fantastic GPS accuracy, reliable heart rate tracking, outstanding battery life, useful training insights, and a design that actually looks good outside the gym. Is it perfect? No. The software ecosystem still has limitations. Offline music support could be better, and smartwatch functionality remains behind some competitors. But none of those issues change the core truth. The GT Runner 2 excels at the thing it was built to do, helping runners become better runners. And honestly, that's exactly what makes it special. If you enjoy calm, experience-driven tech reviews like this, consider subscribing. More phones, smartwatches, laptops, and honest tech coverage are on the way. And let me know in the comments, would you choose a dedicated fitness watch like the Huawei GT Runner 2? Or would you rather have a traditional smartwatch with more apps and features? Thanks for watching, and goodbye.